Hello, welcome to Study Circle. Today we are going to read Class 11th Standard Political Science Part 1, Chapter 4, Social Justice. This video is the summary of this whole chapter. If you are preparing for any teaching exam, then this video is going to be very useful for you. So, let's start. Social Justice. Justice concerns our life in society in the way in which public life is ordered and the principles according to which social goods and social duties are distributed among different members of society. So, justice, different interpretation of justice are in ancient India, justice was associated with dharma, and maintaining dharma or just social order was considered to be the primary duties of kings. In China, the interpretation of justice is that Confucius, the famous philosopher, argued that kings should maintain justice by punishing wrongdoers and rewarding the virtuous. In 4th century BC, Athens or in Greece, the Plato discussed issues of justice in his book Republic. Through a long dialogue between Socrates and his young friends Glaucon and Adimantus, Plato examined how we should be concerned about justice. Socrates clarified that we need to understand clearly what justice means in order to figure out why it is important to be just. In contemporary times, the interpretation of justice is that the understanding of what is just is closely linked to the in contemporary times the interpretation of justice is that the understanding of what is just is closely linked to the understanding of what is due to each person as a human being. According to German philosopher Immanuel Kant, human beings possess dignity. If all persons are granted dignity, then what is due to each of them is that they have the opportunity to develop their talents and pursue their chosen goals. Justice requires that we give due and equal consideration to all individuals. So, what are the different principles of justice? First is that equal treatment of equals. Principle of treating equals equally. It is considered that all individuals share certain characteristics as human beings, so they deserve equal rights and equal treatment. It is not simple matter to decide how to give each person his or her due. Some of the important rights which are granted in most liberal democracies today include civil rights such as the rights of life, rights of liberty, political rights like the right to vote which enable people to participate in political processes, and certain social rights which would include the right to enjoy equal opportunity with other members of the society. No discrimination. On grounds of class, caste, race, or gender, people should be judged on the basis of their work and action, not on the basis of the group to which they belong. Proportionate justice. In proportional justice, there could be circumstances where treating everybody equally would be unjust. It would be fair and just to reward different kinds of work differently. If take into account factors such as the effort required, the skills required, the possible danger involved in that work, etc. Certain kind of workers in society are not paid a wage which takes such factors sufficiently into account. For instance, minors or people in sometimes dangerous may not always get a reward which is just if we compare it what some others in society may be earning. For justice in society, the principle of equal treatment needs to be balanced with the principle of proportionality. So, what are the recognition of special needs? First, to promote the social justice. In a society, to take into account special needs of people which while distributing rewards or duties, in terms of their basic status and rights. As members of the society, justice may require that people be treated equally. The proportional justice, it does not necessarily contradict the principle of equal treatment so much as extend it because the principle of treating equals equally could imply that people who are not equal in certain important respect could be treated differently. People with special needs or disabilities could be considered unequal in some particular respect and deserving of special help. Unequal and non-egalitarian society. If people who enjoy very different standard of living and opportunities are treated equally in all respect with those who have been deprived of even the basic minimum needs to live a healthy and productive life. Balancing principles of justice. Emphasizing rewarding merit as the main principle of justice might mean that marginalized section would be at a disadvantage in many areas. Different groups in the country might favor different policies depending upon which principle of justice they emphasize. It becomes a function of government to harmonize the different principles to promote a just society. Need for just distribution. To achieve social justice, government might have to more then just ensure that laws and policies treat individuals in a fair manner. It also concerns the justice distribution of goods and services, whether it is between nation or between different groups and individuals within a society. Needs of redistribution of resources. There are serious economic or social inequalities in a society. Within a country, social justice would require not only that people be treated equally in terms of the laws and policies of the society, but also they enjoy some basic equality of life conditions and opportunities. For example, different state governments have also taken some measures to redistribute important resources like land in a more fair manner by instituting land reforms. So, what is the John Rawls theory of justice? John Rawls argued that indeed there could indeed be a rational justification for acknowledging the need to provide help to the least privileged members of the society. So, what is the veil of ignorance? It cannot be expected that everyone to put aside their personal interest and think of the good of the society, especially with keeping personal interest in mind of their future generation. Such perspective cannot form the basis of a theory of justice for a society. Reaching a fair and just decision. John Rawls argues that the only way to arrive at it is if we imagine ourselves to be in a situation in which we have to make decision about how society should be organized, although we do not know which position we would ourselves occupy in that society. Simply, we do not know in which family we would be born, like an upper caste or lower caste family, rich or poor, privileged or disadvantaged. In this case, we will be likely to support a decision about the rules and organization of that future society, which would be fair for all the members. Rawls described this as thinking under a veil of ignorance. Fairness. He expects that in such a situation of complete ignorance about our possible position and status in society, each person would decide in the way they generally do. That is, in terms of their own interest. But since no one knows who he would be and what is going to benefit him, each will envisage the future society from the point of view of the worst off. It will be clear to a person who can reason and think for himself, and those who are born privileged will enjoy certain special opportunities. Rational self. It would make sense for each person acting in his or her own interest to try to think of rules organization that will ensure reasonable opportunities to the weaker sections. The attempt will be to see that important resources like education, health, shelter, etc. are available to all. It is, of course, not easy to erase our identities and to imagine oneself under a veil of ignorance. But then it is equally difficult for most people to be self sacrificing and share their good fortune with strangers. Given these human failings and limitations, it is better for us to think of a framework that does not require extraordinary actions. Wearing the imagined veil of ignorance is the first step in arriving at a system of fair laws and policies. Rawls therefore argues that rational thinking, not morality, could lead us to be fair and judge impartially regarding how to distribute the benefits and burdens of a society. In his example, there are no goals or norms of morality that are given to us in advance, and we remain free to determine what is best of ourselves. It is this belief which makes Rawls' theory an important and compelling way to approach the question of fairness and justice. Pursuing social justice. Yes, just society is that society in which ascending sense of reverence and descending sense of contempt is dissolved into the creation of compassionate society. It is a statement by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Justice implies something which is not only right to do and wrong not to do, but which some individual person can claim from us as his moral right. A statement by J.S. Mill. Lacking social justice. If in a society deep and persistent division exists between those who enjoy greater wealth and power and those who are excluded and deprived, a society would be considered unjust if the relatively deprived have no chance at all to improve their condition, however hard they may work. Justice does not require absolute equality and sameness in the way in which people live. A just society should provide people with basic minimum conditions to enable them to live healthy and secure lives and develop their talents as well as equal opportunities to pursue their chosen goals in society. Basic minimum condition for a life. Various methods of calculating the basic needs of people have been devised by different governments and by international organizations like the WHO. Basic amount of nourishment needed. To remain healthy, housing, supply of clean drinking water, education, and a minimum wage. Providing them is considered to be one of the responsibilities of a democratic government. However, providing such basic conditions of life to all citizens may pose a heavy burden on governments, particularly in countries like India, which have a large number of poor people. Disagreement regarding Methods to achieve equality for disadvantaged. Promoting open competition through free markets would be the best way of helping the disadvantaged without harming the better off members of a society. Government should take on responsibility of providing basic minimum to the poor if necessary, even through a redistribution of resources. Free market versus state intervention. Supporters of free markets. The individual should be free to own property and enter into contracts and agreements with others regarding prices and wages and profits. They should be free to compete with each other to gain the greatest amount of benefit. If markets are left free of state interference, the sum of market transactions would ensure overall a just distribution of benefits and duties in society. Market is neutral and concerned with the talents and skills of people. Those with merit and talent would be rewarded accordingly, while the incompetent would get a lesser reward. Now, all free market supporters would not support absolutely unregulated markets. Many would now be willing to accept certain restrictions, such as states could step in to ensure a basic minimum standard of living to all people. But private agencies should be encouraged to provide basic services, while state policies should try to empower people to buy those services. It might also be necessary for the state to give special help to the old and sick who cannot compete. So, what are the role of state? For fair and just societies, states' role should only be to maintain a framework of laws and regulation to ensure that competition between individuals remain free of coercion and other obstacles. So, what are the criticism of justice is that the availability of good quality basic goods and services should be at an affordable cost. Private agencies will not enter such areas where they do not find profit. In such a situation, the government might have to step in. The cost of quality services may put them out of the reach of the poor. Private business tends to go only where business would be most profitable. It may deny rather than extend opportunities for those who are relatively weak and disadvantaged. So, this is the summary of this whole chapter. I tried to cover all the main points of this chapter. This video is for revision for purpose only. So, if you like this video, then do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.